All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the 4 Ounce Fanatic channel. We've got an amazing fight card this weekend, UFC 320, Ankalaev versus Pereira, the rematch. I'm really excited for this card. Without further ado, let's get into the first fight of the night. Veronica Hardy versus Brogan Walker. Veronica Hardy, she's got a taekwondo background. She'll definitely have a speed advantage in this fight. She's got fast kicks, struggles against grapplers, who Brogan Walker is. She's quite tough. Um, but yeah, Veronica Hardy doesn't have real KO power, so I don't think that's going to play a factor in this fight. Despite the skill level of Brogan Walker being quite low, um, she's got 0 wins in the UFC. She's 36 years old. Not really sure why she's still fighting, to be honest. No disrespect to her. She's not on a level of Veronica Hardy. She lost to Juliana Miller. Not a good loss at all. I'm not going to overthink this. I'm going to pick Veronica Hardy by a 30-27 decision. Moving on to the second fight of the night, we've got Ramiz Brahimaj against Austin Vanderford. Now, believe it or not, I'm torn with this fight. This is a closer fight than a lot of people would think. We've got Ramiz Brahimaj. He's a pretty 50-50 guy in the UFC. He has a few losses. He has managed to string together 2 wins in his last 2 fights. He latches up submissions quite quickly. He's got a really strong guillotine, a strong squeeze. I believe 11 of his 12 wins are by submission, so that could play a factor. Most of his submissions are in round 1, 2. And he's going up against Austin Vanderford, who is a Bellator veteran, fought for the belt in Bellator. He's got really strong. He is a good wrestler. He's got great takedowns. He likes to get on top and ground and pound and control you with the top control. Um, he does use basic striking to set up his takedowns, which I think will play a factor in this fight. Um, and the reason why I'm torn about this is because I could see Vanderford going for a double leg or a single leg, looking to chain together those takedowns, and Ramiz Brahimaj latching up a super tight guillotine and tapping him out. But I do think Vanderford's skill level is a bit higher. I do think he's going to win by submission. Excuse me, I do think he's going to win by decision. I think Brahimaj is a lot more powerful on the feet. I think he may rock Vanderford at some point in the fight, but I do think Vanderford will recover, chain together some takedowns, get top control, and win by probably a 29-28 decision. So yeah, that's my pick for this fight. Fight number 3 of the night, we've got Punahele Soriano versus Nikolai Veretennikov. We've got Soriano. He's coming down from 185. Well, he has been at 185 in the past, but he's managed to string together 2 wins at welterweight. He's got a powerful punch. Um, he is fairly inactive um, as of late, but yeah, he was always a natural welterweight. He kind of struggled against bigger middleweights with the physicality advantage, and most of his losses are against grapplers. Dustin Stoltz first, Brendan Allen, I believe, beat him. He doesn't do well against wrestlers, but fortunately for him, Veretennikov is not a wrestler at all. He's a pretty low-level guy. He does make a lot of mistakes on the feet. Doesn't have the best fight IQ. We kind of saw that against Prado in his last fight, who is again not a very high-level welterweight himself, but he did manage to get the win. I'm not even sure how he got in the UFC, to be honest. I'm going to pick Punahele Soriano by a round 2 TKO. Again, not overthinking this one. Punahele Soriano, round 2 TKO. Next fight of the night, fight number 4, we've got Patchy Mix going up against Jakub Viklaj. I'm just gonna call him Jakub. Patchy Mix had a horrible debut in the UFC against Mario Batista. He looked completely frozen on the feet. It was quite a strange fight to watch because in Bellator, he had an incredible record. He was 20-1. He beat a lot of high-level guys. He beat Magomed Magomedov, Rafael Stotts, a few other high-level bantamweights. He had a lot of hype coming into his debut, but he really, really disappointed. he did have a great run in Bellator, like I said. He's got great submissions ability. He's got great submission ability, as well as being a strong wrestler. Obviously, he's the partner of Tatiana Suarez, who is another good wrestler. Yeah, I think in this fight, his submission ability will definitely have a factor. It's quite rare these days to see a strong wrestler with submission finishing ability, because I feel like we're entering or re-entering the age of the specialist, where we'll have a lot of fighters who are, you know, only really good at one thing and they're able to dominate in that position. So yeah, Jakub Viklax. I'll just call him Jakub. I have no idea how to pronounce this guy's last name. It's his UFC debut. He's coming in from KSW. He does have a lot of good submissions on his record. He's a lot younger than Patchy Mix. I think he'll be a bit more dynamic on the feet. Maybe hurt him at some point. But yeah, I do think Patchy Mix is a lot more skilled than this guy, and he will um, be able to submit him. So I'm going to pick Patchy Mix by round 2 submission. Next fight of the night, number 5, Macy Chiasson versus Yana Santos. Macy Chiasson, she's fairly well-rounded. However, she is ranked number 5. She's ranked in the top 5 of the women's bantamweight division. That's all I need to say about the state of this division. Yeah, she has a few decent wins against Mara Bueno Silva, Norma Dumont. She did lose to Irene Aldana with that weird up kick to the liver, something I've never seen before. And she's going up against Yana Santos. I mean, not really too much to say about her, unfortunately. She's a jobber at 135. She's been pretty inactive lately. Decent clinch game. She's got a record of 16-8 though. So I am going to pick Macy Chiasson to win by 30-27 decision. Yeah, not overthinking this one again. Moving on to the next fight of the night, fight number 6. We've got Daniel Santos versus Ju Sang Yu. Now, I'm actually quite excited about this fight. This is a pretty good matchup. We've got Daniel Santos. He's a shooter box guy, very scrappy. He's got good kicks. He likes to use the clinch as well when he's hurt usually. And yeah, he does get dropped or hurt in majority of his fights. We saw that in his last fight against the Korean Tiger. I forgot his name, unfortunately. But yeah, he did manage to come back and win the fight using his takedown threat and a bit of clinching. He isn't really a featherweight. He's quite short. He does definitely have a big reach disadvantage in this fight. So I think he's going to have to get close and close the distance against Ju Sang Yu, who is a great counter striker. He had a crazy debut knockout against Jeka Sadagi, where his footwork and counter striking was on display, despite it only being about 30 seconds. Yeah, he has an interesting style. He kind of fights similar to he reminds me of a young McGregor, where he's got that wide bladed stance, low hands, and he's looking to counterpunch with a big hook or straight punch. I think this is going to be a great fight, though. I'm not going to overthink it. I think it will be a scrap, but I just think Ju Sang Yu is a lot better and quicker on the feet, and he's got a big reach advantage. So I think he might be able to pick apart Daniel Santos. It's going to be a closer fight than I think most people think. Obviously, a lot of people are going to think that Ju Sang Yu will win this fight dominantly based on his debut. But I'm going to pick Ju Sang Yu by round 2 TKO. That is my pick. I do think it's going to be a back and forth fight. They're both going to land big shots on each other, and unfortunately for Daniel Santos, he is going to get TKO'd in round 2. That's my pick for this fight. Fight number 7, Chris Gutierrez versus Farid Basharat. Chris Gutierrez, I'll be honest, he's a calf kick merchant. He has really low output. I do think he's quite overrated based on a win streak he was able to string together. That last win that he had on that win streak was obviously the knee KO of Frankie Edgar. Yeah, I just think he's a bit overrated. And I feel like if you're a higher output striker with decent grappling, you are going to be able to beat him. We've seen that in some of his fights against guys like Pedro Munoz, etc. And he's going up against Farid Basharat, and I do think Basharat has high enough output and good enough grappling to be able to win this fight. He's undefeated. He's quite a clean striker. He likes to mix in the takedowns, pretty well rounded. Yeah, I don't think he's going to be able to finish Gutierrez. I do think he's going to be able to rack up some control time, have a lot higher output on the feet. And yeah, I'm going to pick Farid Basharat by 29-28 decision. I do think Gutierrez has enough skill to win maybe round 2 or 3. He's going to come back later on in the fight, get up from some of the takedowns. But yeah, I just don't think he is going to be able to beat Farid Basharat. So yeah, 29-28 decision, Farid Basharat. Moving on to fight number 8, Edmund Shabazian versus Andre Muniz. Edmund Shabazian, we all know the game with this guy. He's an aggressive striker. He'll start quickly in this fight, especially against an older guy in Andre Muniz, who is typically a jiu-jitsu fighter. He's still very young. I believe he's 26 or 27, but I do think he's learned a lot from some of his losses, which, aside from Imavov, I believe have all been against grapplers. Derek Brunson, Jack Hermanson, GM3, I believe Anthony Hernandez too. In all of these fights, he started off very fast on the feet in the early rounds, round 1 especially. Then he got out-grappled and finished. I do think he's matured his style a little bit. We did see that in the last fight against Rodolfo Vieira, which, again, was a jiu-jitsu guy. And I was impressed. His cardio held up. He was able to win by decision, which is, I believe, his first fight in the UFC that he's actually won by decision. But yeah, this is one of those fights that is going to go one of two ways. Shabazian's going to win by round 1 KO, or Andre Muniz is going to survive round 1 and he's going to win by a late submission or a decision. But yeah, like I said earlier, Andre Muniz, good jiu-jitsu. He is a bit of a gatekeeper at this point, being older in his career. He's quite chinny. We saw that in his last fight. I actually forgot who he fought, but yeah, he got TKO'd in round 1. Alex Kirov, it was Alex Kirov. Quite a weird stoppage though. It was a bit of a delayed KO. Yeah, he's also gotten TKO'd by Paul Craig, which is really not a good look, especially against a much more dangerous striker like Shabazian. Yeah, I do think, like I said earlier, this is going to go one or two ways. But I do think that Shabazian is a lot more younger, athletic, and he's going to have enough skill to get the job done by a round 1 TKO. And I really hope Muniz thinks about retiring after this fight because he's taking a lot of damage in his career. I think he's 37 or 36. Yeah. Edmund Shabazian, round 1 KO. That's my pick for this fight. Moving on to the last fight of the prelims, the featured fight, Ateba Gautier versus Tristan Vines. Now, obviously, originally Gautier was picked to face up against Ozzy Diaz. Ozzy Diaz realized, what the fuck am I doing? I'm just going to get slept in round 1. So he pulled out of the fight, and we've got a late notice replacement in Tristan Vines. But yeah, Ateba Gautier, he's essentially Francis Ngannou 2.0. He's got crazy athleticism. He's 23 years old. He's an athlete. He's a pure athlete. He's got crazy knockout power. And he's going up against Tristan Vines. It's his UFC debut on 3 days' notice. His record is 10-3. However, all of his 3 losses have been by knockout. Yeah, I just can't see this fight going any other way than Ateba Gautier winning by round 1 KO. So yeah, that's my pick. Ateba Gautier is going to continue his impressive run in the UFC, beating up middleweight jobbers, and yeah, he's going to win by round 1 KO. Moving on to the main card, we got Abus Magomedov versus Joe Pyfer. Both of these guys have quite similar styles. I feel like they like to start fast in the first round. Pretty good strikers, decent power, decent grappling too. I think Abus Magomedov has definitely improved since that fight against Strickland, where he kind of just wilted and gassed out pretty quickly. But I do think that he still will struggle with cardio in the later rounds. He did seem to resolve that in his last fight against Pereira, Michel. But we will see. Joe Pyfer, like I said, powerful striker. I think this is going to be a closer fight than people think. I do think a lot of people was going to pick Joe Pyfer to win by KO, as he does have crazy power. And this, Abus Magomedov tends to fade. Obviously, we saw that in the fight against Strickland. he faded, and I think a lot of people will be picking Joe Pyfer by a round 1 or 2 KO. I think it's going to be a closer fight than people think, though. I do think the gas tank of Magomed will be able to hold up. I do think he's going to look to mix in takedowns against Pyfer. However, yeah, I'm still going to pick Joe Pyfer to win by decision or possibly a round 3 TKO. But I do think, yeah, Pyfer's got the age advantage. He's a lot younger, more athletic, and yeah, he has the ability to bite down on his mouthpiece a bit more. So yeah, Joe Pyfer, decision or late round 3 TKO. Moving on to the next fight of the night, we've got Josh Emmett versus Yusuf Salal. Now, Josh Emmett, we all love Josh Emmett. He's an overhand merchant. We all love to see a good old Josh Emmett KO. However, he's 40 years of age. He's 40. He's 40 years old. Okay, we all know the game with Emmett. He's very strong. He's got a wrestling base. He's got low output, and despite his age, I do still think he has the ability to find that power shot, and put people to sleep. But against Yusuf Salal, he's on a good win streak. He's about 12. I think he's 29. He's a lot younger, more athletic. He'll have a speed advantage against Emmett. He's gonna, he's gonna do Yusuf Zalal. He's gonna do what Yusuf Zalal does. He's gonna jab. He's gonna move around the octagon. He's gonna look to avoid the power shot of Emmett. Mix in takedowns. Yeah, he's gonna neutralize the knockout threat with those takedowns. Yeah, he's gonna be on the back foot a lot. I think avoiding the close range boxing exchanges. And yeah, as much as I want to see a Josh Emmett KO, I just think at this stage of his career and the opponent that he's facing in this fight, he's just, yeah, I just don't see him winning, unfortunately. I love Josh Emmett. And, a lot of people have gone sour on Yusuf Salal after that last fight against Cater. And I think it's going to be, way more prevalent in this fight, especially because the knockout threat of Emmett is much higher than Cater's. If you guys saw that last fight with Zalal versus Cater, in the third round, he essentially just was running around the octagon, jabbing, moving out of the way of all of Cater's strikes, which was a bit frustrating to watch. And I definitely think that the same thing's going to happen in this fight. Yes, but he's going to mix in more takedowns. Yeah. Unfortunately, I love you, Josh, but Yusuf Zalal will win by 29-28 decision. He's going to win the first 2 rounds, I think, and Emmett will have a strong last round. I believe he may rock Zalal at one point, but I do think Zalal will win by 29-28 decision. And I feel like this may be one of those fights where Emmett will land a few big shots, maybe rock him, but their output and grappling of Zalal will be way higher, and a lot of people are going to say it's a robbery just because of the damage of Emmett will probably outweigh Zalal's, efficiency in the striking. But yeah, I do think Zalal will win 29-28 decision. Yeah, that's my pick for this fight. Featured fight of the evening. Now this is my favorite fight of the night. Yuri Prohaska versus Khalil Roundtree. Now, we all know the game with Yuri. It's very unorthodox on the feet. Obviously, he struggled with his defense in some of his recent fights. He would just rely on his chin till it got cracked by the main event fighter of this evening, Mr. Pereira himself. I do think he realized he had to evolve as a fighter. He said that in the one of the Joe Rogan podcasts. I have to do the evolution, and let's go for that. But yeah, he really impressed me in his last fight against Jamal Hill. I feel like he found a way to still fight with his unorthodox style, but get hit less. And yeah, and the way he did that was with amazing head movement, counter striking. He would kind of, you know, Jamal Hill would sort of look to land a 2-punch combination. He would slip and boom, come back with a 2-punch combination of himself. Himself. He would come back with a 2-punch combination. Yeah, I was really impressed with that last fight against Hill. He definitely showed his evolution. Great counter striking, footwork, etc. but he still had that awkward herky jerky style. Stabbing front kicks to the body, straight punches, things like that. And he's going up against Khalil Roundtree. One thing I love about Khalil Roundtree is that he is very calm and composed when he gets in there. Especially against, he obviously had his last fight against Jamal too. He was very calm and composed. At the start of the fight, he walked towards Jamal with his hands down. I do think he could have gone for the finish in that fight. He basically destroyed Jamal, dropped him about 3 or 4 times, I believe. But yeah, Khalil, we all know the deal with him too. He's a Muay Thai striker. He's got powerful kicks, especially to the legs and body. Um, he likes to sort of come forward with that looping overhand, like a lead overhand, essentially. I do think that will play a factor in this fight. Obviously, he's going to have a height and reach advantage against Yuri. So he's going to obviously look to pressure forward and be aggressive. Um, I think this is going to be an amazing fight. This is an amazing matchup. It's going to be a scrap. And I sort of see this fight playing out similarly to Khalil versus Pereira, where Khalil will start strong. He's going to be very aggressive early on. Um, we've seen that happen in some Yuri fights, especially against Alexander Rakic, where he had a very shaky first round. He got pieced up with the leg kicks, which I think Khalil will land. He got hit pretty hard, but then he slowly worked his way back in the fight in round two, and he got the TKO. Yeah, I do think this fight's going to play out similarly to Khalil versus Pereira, where Khalil will start strong and then sort of fade later on. It's going to be an amazing fight. And yeah, I'm going to pick Yuri by round 3 TKO. I just think he is higher level. He's got better grappling if he needs. And he's obviously shown his evolution. And yeah, he's got the height advantage. He's got the reach advantage. Khalil, great fighter, but I do think that Yuri thrives in the chaos a lot more than Khalil. And yeah, my pick for this fight is Yuri Prohaska, round 3 TKO. Let's go for that. Co-main event of the evening, we've got Merab Dvalishvili versus Corey Sandhagen. Now, Merab, we know the deal with this guy too, don't we? Crazy gas tank. He never stops coming. Um, I do think he's going to have a lot more improved striking in this fight, especially against a guy like Corey Sandhagen, who's quite dynamic on the feet. Um, Merab, he's either in or out. He uses his striking to set up the takedowns. He loves the overhand single leg dump. Um, yeah, he's either all in or all out. I do think he's entering his prime now. I think he's 34 years old. He's really kind of discovering what it means to be a champion. He's got a title defense under his belt, 2 title defenses actually. Excuse me. Yeah, we all know the deal with Merab, and he's going up against Corey Sandhagen. He is going to have a huge height and reach advantage in this fight, which I think he will try to utilize. But it's interesting because Merab is he's interesting. As I said, he's either all in or all out, and I think Corey Sandhagen's going to struggle with that in terms of keeping his range. I don't think he's going to be able to keep Merab at range as easily as a lot of people think. He's got great jab. Likes to use the low kick, front kick to the body. He's a very high level striker. He's got the dangerous weapons. We've all seen it: wheel kick, flying knee, all that stuff. Um, yeah, I do think he's become a lot more technical and a bit more reserved. Like we saw in a lot of his earlier fights in the UFC, he fought with a bit more edge and kind of swagger. But I do think he's evolved his game. We saw that in the last fight against Figgy, got a backside 50-50 and blew Figgy's knee out. I believe it was a leg lock, some sort of leg lock variation. He's training with Ryan Hall, so I do think he's going to try to utilize the 50-50 position in the scrambles, which could be potentially dangerous for Merab. But I think Merab's got a high enough fight IQ to be able to neutralize that. He's going to stay on top, look for ground and pound. Sandhagen does have decent submissions off his back. We saw, he's got a triangle, I believe. He's got an armbar against Mario Batista. Um, yeah, the fact that Corey does have a big advantage on the feet, um, despite that, I still think Merab will win by 49-46 decision. I think Corey Sandhagen has the ability to steal a round or two off Merab, land some big shots in the feet, get back up after getting taken down. But yeah, Merab is just too good, man. I don't see him losing it anytime soon. And yeah, I'm going to pick Merab by 49-46 decision. Main event of the evening. Magomed Ankalaev versus Alex Pereira 2. Magomed Ankalaev, he really impressed me with his boxing skills in the last fight. He outboxed Pereira. He is, despite being a Dagestani, typically a striker. He does have a good wrestling base, however. Um, he dominated the first fight. I do think the threat of the takedown kind of allowed him to land his shots on the feet. It kind of froze Alex a lot in that fight, um, which is funny because Pereira defended every single takedown. But despite that, that was one of the main keys to Ankalaev being able to win. He just utilizes the threat of the takedown because obviously Pereira, being a kickboxer, everyone wants to take him down. And I think Ankalaev had a great game plan where he's like, is he gonna go for the takedown? Oh, and then he lands good shots on the feet. Rocked Pereira at the end of round two. And funnily enough, Pereira actually took Ankalaev down, which I found quite interesting. Despite it, a lot of people think it would have been the other way around. He does struggle against guys who have good leg kicks, which I do think Pereira needs to use in this fight. He needs to start off early, land big leg kicks, be aggressive, not be afraid to be taken down because he had amazing takedown defense in the first fight. Like a lot of people are looking past that, I feel like. Um, so yeah, I think he just needs to put Ankalaev on the back foot, land leg kicks, which I think is Ankalaev's weakness. Um, yeah, Alex Pereira, we all know the deal with him. Kickboxer. And the thing about this fight is, I do think if Pereira loses, he's either going to retire or move up to heavyweight. I don't think there's much left for him at 205. So I do think that might play a factor mentally in this fight. Um, yeah, I do think Ankalaev is going to use a similar game plan. And I hope that Alex realizes this and, like I said earlier, is more aggressive on the feet. This time, that is his key to victory. He needs to be more aggressive on the feet, utilize the kicks, not be afraid to be taken down. I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but yeah, this is how Pereira is going to win. If he is going to win, he needs to do that. Um, yeah, despite all that, I do think Big Ank will still get it done. Yeah, he's going to force Alex into retirement or move up to heavyweight. We all love Pereira, but yeah, I just think Ankalaev at this point in his career is too skilled, and yeah, will win probably by I'm going to say 40. I think it's going to be more dominant than last fight. I think he's going to win 50-25. Excuse me, 50-45. I believe the last fight was 49-46. I do think he's going to win every round this time. Probably land a few takedowns in this fight because I think Pereira is going to be a bit more aggressive, which will lead to him getting taken down. Um, Obviously, I hope Pereira wins, but I do think at this stage of his career, he's just not good enough to beat a guy like Big Ank. So yeah, my pick for this fight is Magomed Ankalaev 50-45 decision. And those are my picks for UFC 320 Ankalaev versus Pereira 2. I hope you guys all enjoy the fights. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please leave a like and comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And I will see you guys next week. Goodbye.